The city of Fort Worth invited citizens to submit their own city council maps for the first time ever during the last redistricting cycle in 2011 and 12. The availability of cheap, user-friendly mapping software and powerful online computing made it possible for city residents to draw their own plans, check them against the city's published criteria, and propose input to the official redistricting process carried out every 10 years following the U.S. Census. In the spring of 2011, the city manager had contracted with the supplier of a web-based redistricting software tool, and that summer, the city staff held a series of public training workshops and community meetings across Fort Worth to instruct citizens on how to use the tool. People who didn't wish to use the computer were also permitted to submit plans drawn by hand. At the end of the public participation phase, 9 citizen-drawn plans were submitted for consideration. In addition, there were public comments requesting that specific neighborhoods be kept intact within a single district. Several commenters supported dividing the city up into 10 council districts. Among the citizen-drawn plans, one was submitted by a member of the city engineering staff. 2 plans were offered by members of the Zoning Commission. The authors of those 3 plans were acting as private citizens, all residents of the East Side. The United Hispanic Council turned in 3 plans intended to model Hispanic residency in Fort Worth more closely. 2 plans were submitted by residents of the North Side, including one by the North Fort Worth Alliance Neighborhood Association, and a plan was offered by the Stop 6 Sunrise Edition Neighborhood Association. No plans were submitted by residents of the west or south sides of Fort Worth. At that point, the citizen mappers were done. They had no further direct participation in the redistricting process. Their plans and comments were submitted to the city staff to be evaluated against council district criteria, such as roughly equal populations, and boundaries conforming to voting precincts and natural geographic features. Using those inputs, the staff developed an interim draft plan. The City Council weighed in with comments conveyed to the staff through a liaison council member, Zim Zimmerman of District 3. There was no transparency, internal or public, to that phase of the process. The staff was shielded from knowledge of the council deliberations or the motives for suggested changes. When the draft interim staff plan was issued, the city asked for public comments. One contentious issue was maintaining the integrity of the 8th Avenue corridor versus the diluting of Hispanic population in District 9. After adjusting boundaries throughout the city, a final plan was issued and submitted for approval to the Department of Justice in accordance with the Voting Rights Act. There were many lessons learned from citizen participation in the last redistricting cycle. For one, the citizen plans represented many neighborhoods and communities of interest, but not all. There were no plans drawn by residents of the west or south sides of the city. Also, citizen involvement essentially ended with the submittal of input plans. There was no opportunity given to citizens to participate in the drafting of the staff's interim plan. Consequently, there was some dissatisfaction expressed by some groups, such as these comments from the North Fort Worth Alliance Neighborhood Association.
We believe that the 3-district proposal that we've submitted meets all the criteria and our guiding principles. Our plan increased the percentage of Hispanic in each of districts 2, 8, and 9, and thereby increasing that population's potential influence on the elections. Our resulting percentage of non-Hispanic Black are higher in most cases than the staff's draft proposal. And under our proposal, District 7 is continuous. Under the staff, it is not. Finally, our proposal allows for growth of Districts 2 and 7 so that during the next 10 years, those constituents will not be underrepresented as they were during the growth spurts of the 2000.
Finally, some citizen-drawn plans received more weight than others, and their inputs were more clearly reflected in the final district plan. For instance, the final District 4 plan is nearly identical to one of the East Side plans. Except for adjustments along the I-35 corridor north of Heritage Trace Parkway and from Belknap to the 820, the boundaries in both plans were the same. Several features from the United Hispanic Council plans made it into the final determination of the District 2 boundaries. And the overall layout of District 3 on the west side is remarkably like one of the citizen plans, except for areas west and east of Benbrook Lake, which were moved back into District 3 from District 6, and the Sunset Heights neighborhood between Lake Como and Arlington Heights. The two plans are the same. Notably, that plan was drawn by citizens who didn't reside in the district, but lived across town on the east side. It should be noted that the Districts 3 and 4 citizens' plans were drawn by serving members of the city's zoning commission. What Fort Worth's experience shows is that citizens can be trusted to make choices about the extent and shape of their own council districts, but more thought needs to be given to the process. So what can the city do to make sure that the lessons learned from the last redistricting cycle are folded into the next one so that we can improve on citizen participation? One big improvement would be to allow citizen mappers to work out the differences in their plans during the drafting of a single integrated plan. Invite them into the process with the city staff. The staff could still oversee the process and facilitate negotiations among the residents, but being in the room where it happens would give all of them an insight into the local concerns of their fellow planners across the entire city, and would give them greater satisfaction and more gratification with their joint effort. Another important point is to work harder to ensure more inclusive representation by neighborhoods and communities of interest across the entire city. That may mean having to actively recruit residents of areas that are underrepresented among input plans. It might also mean broadening participation by opening it up to residents who submitted comments but didn't elect to draw maps of all the city council districts. The process could also invite a voting rights attorney to offer counsel to the redistricting team. It's important that the city not retreat from welcoming citizen involvement in the redistricting process, but redouble its commitment and continue working toward even more citizen engagement. The democratizing effect of inexpensive and easy-to-use mapping software on the redistricting process will only continue to grow at all levels of government. We can and should build on lessons that were learned during the last redistricting cycle, so that Fort Worth has a better, smoother, more satisfying, and collegial process toward forming fair and representative city council districts. It doesn't have to be the Austin plan, or the Syracuse plan, or the San Diego plan, cities that use independent citizen redistricting commissions. It can be the Fort Worth plan, and that should be something we can all get behind.